When people hear the name Williams, a vivid picture instantly forms in their minds. Two tireless athletes, radiant in their clutch shots, almost like twin sisters who pass a glowing torch of determination back and forth. Media outlets often label them as powerful black women, always strong, sometimes fiery on the court, as if they were living storms contained within a bright, bounded arena. Those glossy images, however, hide the deeper, more nuanced story of Serena Williams, a woman who does not need the flash of stadium lights but rather the quiet, steady voice of inner strength that rises whenever the clamorous media fall silent. But who was Serena when the spectators' cheers faded and the cameras were switched off? She was more than just the big sister of Venus, more than a dominant black star. She was a child raised in a modest home on the streets of Compton, California, whose early environment was a patchwork of hard-won grit and boundless imagination. Her father, Richard, a former high school football player and wrestler, and her mother, Oracene, who worked in the hospitality industry, constructed for their daughters a world made of public court concrete, broken glass rackets, and an ever-present scent of fresh grass and sweat. Posters of legendary tennis champions hung crooked on the walls of the small apartment, and the rhythmic thump of a ball against the cracked sidewalk became the soundtrack of Serena's childhood. The family's limited budget meant that whenever a new racket was needed, Richard would scour yard sales, sometimes finding a second-hand Wilson or a battered head that would be repaired with tape and glue. Those improvisations taught Serena early on that resourcefulness could be just as decisive as raw talent. From an early age, Serena displayed qualities that set her apart from most kids: an unflinching resolve in her gaze, a laser-focused intensity in her steps, as if she already knew her destiny would stretch far beyond the cramped rooms of their home. She loved school, but the tennis court was her primary classroom. Venus, 6 years older, was both mentor and first rival. The sisters would train under the relentless Florida sun, beating a tattered yellow ball until its seams split, turning each practice into a bolt of electricity that sliced the humid air. One summer at a regional tennis camp, their coach spoke of the global stage. Serena stared at the horizon and whispered to herself, "What if I can step beyond the lines that have been drawn for me?" The following year, at age 10, she entered her first official tournament at the Orange County Junior Championships and, despite being the youngest in the draw, reached the quarterfinals, a feat that caught the eye of national scout Patrick McEnroe, who later became a key mentor. Love entered Serena's life on a completely different wavelength. In early 2016, amidst the height of her 16 Grand Slam winning streak, she met Alexis Ohanian, co-founder of Reddit, during a quiet moment in a Los Angeles public library. Both were seeking refuge from the relentless buzz of the world. Ohanian recalled that he had first noticed her portrait in a sports magazine, yet their initial conversation was about startups, literature, and music. He mentioned his fascination with the development of open-source communities, while Serena talked about the discipline required to master a serve that could travel over 120 miles per hour. The turning point came when he asked, "Why do you play as if every swing is a scream?" Serena answered, "It's my way of speaking to the world when words fail." Their connection blossomed into a gentle yet resilient partnership, built on mutual respect for each other's ambitions. The couple's first public appearance together was at a charity gala for Girls Who Code, where they announced a joint scholarship fund for women in technology, signaling the start of a collaborative philanthropic vision. The couple exchanged vows in early 2017, and by August that year their daughter, Alexis Olympia, entered the world. Motherhood arrived as both a blessing and an unprecedented challenge. Weeks of prenatal appointments, injections, and sleepless nights were interwoven with a grueling tournament schedule that left Serena constantly juggling a diaper bag and a tennis bag. Yet within her chest a calm rhythm emerged, a steady drumbeat of a mother preparing for battle. In an astonishing display of resolve, Serena captured the Australian Open title that same year, becoming the first mother to win the event in its 109-year history. The victory was more than a trophy. It was a proclamation that no barrier, physical, societal, or personal, could hold back a woman whose spirit had been forged on a cracked neighborhood court. After the final, when she lifted the trophy, she paused, looking directly at the camera, and whispered, "For every girl who's ever been told she can't," a line that would become a rallying cry for countless fans. Fate, however, has a habit of testing the most resilient steel. Late in 2017, after the birth of her second daughter, Angelique, known affectionately as Sophia, Serena faced a harrowing postpartum period. Complications included a pulmonary embolism, lingering hip pain, and a barrage of media scrutiny that questioned whether she could ever return to top form. Headlines decried her weight gain, overexertion, and declining performance, painting her body as a topic of public debate rather than a testament to recovery. Inside, the seed of determination did not wilt, it grew stronger. Serena reshaped her training regimen, adopted a personalized nutrition plan that emphasized anti-inflammatory foods, and intensified her physiotherapy, essentially assembling a mosaic from broken shards to reconstruct a more resilient version of herself. She hired a specialist in postpartum athletic recovery, Dr. Anika Rios, whose protocol combined low-impact hydrotherapy, core stabilization drills, and mindfulness breathing techniques that later became a staple in the training of many elite athletes. Recovery manifested itself in early morning jogs around the private courts of her West Palm Beach estate. Each breath was an oath, each step a promise to the children waiting on the porch. By February 2018, merely a year after the publicized health scare, she returned to Grand Slam competition at the Australian Open, advancing to the semifinals before a hard-fought loss to a rising star, Naomi Osaka. A few months later, at the Auckland Open, she claimed a hard-court doubles title alongside her sister, reinforcing the narrative that she could not only survive adversity but also thrive within it. That Auckland victory was particularly symbolic. The sisters, who had grown up sharing a single, battered racket, lifted the trophy together while their father, now in his 70s, watched from the stands, his eyes glistening with pride. The true apex of her resurgence arrived in 2019. At the US Open, Serena clinched her 23rd Grand Slam title, tying the legendary Margaret Court's all-time record and solidifying her status as the queen of the modern era. The triumph was marked by a single, thunderous forehand that reverberated through Arthur Ashe Stadium like a gust of wind through an open window, silent, powerful, undeniable. In that moment, she was no longer someone's sister or a shadow of a larger figure, but a legend in her own right, the architect of an empire built stone by stone, sweat by sweat. That championship run also featured a dramatic semifinal against a then unseeded player from Russia, where Serena saved 3 match points with a sequence of aggressive serves and net approaches that analysts later described as the definition of clutch. The media that once reduced her to a stereotype now filled pages with statistics: a 71% first serve percentage, an average of 3.8 aces per match, and an unmatched 0.21 unforced error rate, numbers that underscored her technical mastery. Beyond personal accolades, Serena's influence expanded dramatically during the tumultuous early 2020s, a period defined by a global pandemic that forced the suspension of most professional sports. As tournaments vanished and prize money evaporated, countless emerging players faced the prospect of their dreams dissolving before they even began. Recognizing the systemic vulnerability, Serena established the Serena Williams Fund for Change, a charitable arm dedicated to supporting underprivileged youth through scholarships, equipment grants, and mentorship programs. One recipient, a 17-year-old African-American player from Chicago named Malik Thompson, recalled, "She showed up when I thought everything was over. Her words, 'You can,' became my anchor." The fund's first grant cycle disbursed $2 million across 45 programs, ranging from swing analysis workshops in Detroit to mental health counseling services in rural Texas. Serena's approach to philanthropy was both pragmatic and visionary. She leveraged her extensive network to create an online marathon series where athletes, coaches, and fans could stream live sessions, share stories, and raise funds for the foundation. The events not only generated significant monetary support, over $5 million in the first year alone, but also fostered a sense of community at a time when physical gatherings were impossible. Moreover, she used her platform to advocate for equity in prize money distribution, testifying before the U.S. Senate's Committee on Commerce, Science, and Transportation. Her testimony helped galvanize legislative pressure that eventually led the Women's Tennis Association, WTA, to negotiate more balanced compensation structures with major tournament organizers, narrowing the gender pay gap that had persisted for decades. In 2021, the WTA announced a historic 10% increase in baseline prize money for all Tier 1 events, a victory that Serena celebrated with a simple tweet: "Equality isn't a buzzword, it's a baseline." Tragedy, however, continued to test Serena's resolve. In 2022, her husband Alexis Ohanian's mother, a quiet but steadfast supporter, passed away after a prolonged illness. The loss struck a deep emotional chord, and for a brief period Serena retreated from the public eye. Yet, as she later reflected in an intimate interview with the New York Times, loss is not an end, it is a new beginning when you have a purpose bigger than the pain. She used the period of mourning to further champion mental health awareness, partnering with the National Alliance on Mental Illness, NAMI, to launch a campaign aimed at destigmatizing therapy among athletes, particularly women of color who often face cultural barriers to seeking help. The campaign featured a series of short documentaries, each highlighting a different athlete's personal journey, and raised over $3 million for community counseling centers. As her competitive career tapered, Serena pivoted gracefully into the realms of entrepreneurship and advocacy. She launched a fashion line S by Serena that blended high-performance athletic wear with sophisticated street style, emphasizing inclusivity by offering extended size ranges and adaptive designs for athletes with disabilities. In 2023, she introduced a line of skincare products formulated with ingredients sourced from sustainably managed farms, aligning the brand's ethos with environmental stewardship. Additionally, she became an early investor in several tech startups, ranging from AI-driven health monitoring platforms to blockchain-based ticketing solutions for live sports events. Her business ventures not only diversified her portfolio but also created employment opportunities, especially for women and minorities in tech-heavy sectors. One of her portfolio companies, PulseFit, employs over 200 women engineers and has patented a wearable device that predicts injury risk based on gait analysis, a technology Serena herself tested during a low-impact training session in 2022. At home, Serena cultivated a sanctuary designed for reflection and family connection. Her sprawling estate in Palm Beach, surrounded by meticulously tended gardens, features a modest tennis court where her daughters practice under her watchful eye. Evenings often find her perched on a veranda, sipping herbal tea as the sun dips below the horizon, the scent of blooming roses mingling with the distant hum of ocean waves. She shares stories of perseverance, teaches the value of hard work, and emphasizes that success is a marathon, not a sprint, a lesson she imparts not just through words but through the lived example of her own multifaceted journey. On weekends, the family hosts a community-served brunch, inviting local youth coaches to exchange ideas, and often the sound of a small drum circle accompanies the clinking of glasses, a reminder that celebration can coexist with humility. What truly defines Serena Williams' legacy? Myths about her the dominant black woman, the injury-prone champion, or the sister in the shadow of Venus are merely fragments of a far larger mosaic. She is the individual who transformed every forehand, every setback, every personal loss into fuel for an ever-glowing internal fire. Her path reads like a symphony of resilience, each movement a call for freedom, equity, and self-determination. It is not merely a catalog of trophies, it is a continuous lesson on balancing family and career, converting pain into power, and becoming the voice for those whose microphones have yet to be handed to them. Her influence extends beyond sport into education, technology, fashion, and social justice, making her a true polymath of the 21st century. For those eager to delve deeper into the extraordinary life of Serena Williams, several documentaries serve as essential viewing. The feature-length film Serena offers an intimate look at her training routines, the grueling battle with injuries, and the euphoria of victory, complete with behind-the-scenes footage from the 2017 Australian Open final. Equally compelling is Venus and Serena, the documentary, which explores the sisters' intertwined journeys, their shared triumphs, and the personal dramas that only amplified their greatness. A newer series, Beyond the Baseline, released on a streaming platform in 2024, devotes an entire episode to Serena's post-tennis entrepreneurial ventures, featuring interviews with her business partners and footage of her designing a new line of adaptive sportswear. If this story resonated with you, consider sharing it, subscribing for more inspiring narratives, and staying tuned. There are countless more tales of perseverance, innovation, and triumph waiting just beyond the next serve.